Hello, hello, hello. I hope that you can see me. Can you see me? If you can see me, please say yes. I see all of your wonderful faces here in the chat. This is our first time having a YouTube live for our Super Tuesday business meeting. This is our first time doing this. So if you can hear me and you can see me, please say yes. You guys know how we do it. And ladies, if you can see me, say yes. Yes. Okay, great, great. So how's everybody? I hope everybody is doing well this evening, taking care of yourselves, taking care of your families. That's so very important. What's up, Jay? How are you doing out there, man? How's everything going? Byron, Swinton, Dennis, how's everybody out there doing? Glad to have you. But I hope you're taking care of yourselves, taking care of your families, because I want you to know that this coronavirus is real. It's serious. And, I know because it's impacted my family. So I want you to be very aware of the situation that's happening and not to be afraid of it. I'm not at all saying that. But I do want you to be cautious and just know that an ounce of prevention is much better than a pound of cure any day and twice on Sunday. So I would highly, highly suggest that if you're doing so already, that's great. If you are not, start making sure that you are taking the necessary precautions to make sure you and your family are safe. That's important. Okay? So, we're doing things a little differently tonight. We're doing our webcast tonight, our webinar over YouTube. And we're going to do more of this. I haven't been doing it over YouTube because we're not familiar with how to go live. This is the first time I've done it. And it's a little bit different. I didn't know how to share my screen with using YouTube Live. So what I decided to do was to record it, and then after this is over tomorrow morning at 6 a.m., I am going to send you the recording of this particular webcast that we're doing tonight. And you'll be able to see the slides that I'm going to use. You'll be able to see the slides. Tonight, you're just going to be able to hear me, but hopefully, if my recording goes correctly, you'll be able to see the slides. Because we got a great class lined up for you tonight. We're going to talk about the 9 basic needs of shippers. And why is that so important? Why is it so important that we be talking as freight brokers about the 9 basic needs of shippers? Well, very simple. The shipper is our customer, and we have to make sure that we understand what their needs are. Because when we understand what their needs are, then we can properly service our customer. Okay? Okay? Yeah. So definitely make sure that we're doing that. 9 basic needs of shippers. Very, very critical topic tonight. So make sure that you are taking notes. You're in a quiet place because we have some great information to share with you tonight. Now, before we get started, I want to share a few notes with you before we get started tonight. PPP loan. Did any of you get approved for the PPP loan? If you're here on the call tonight, just say yes, yes, double yes if you did. I know a lot of you had gotten the PPP loan, but did you get approved for the PPP loan? Yes, yes, if you did, please. Okay, so we got a few people that did get approved for the PPP loan. So I want to say this very quickly. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this tonight, but forgiveness time. It is forgiveness time for the loan. Remember that the PPP loan is not automatically free. You have to file for forgiveness. That time is upon us. I had an email from Wells Fargo yesterday to let me know that it is time to start preparing for PPP loan forgiveness. Now, if you go on the SBA website, you'll notice that there's an application there for PPP loan forgiveness. So I've already printed that application out. You can just go to the SBA.gov, I think it is, go to the website. If that's not it, just look at Small Business Administration and Google it, and I think you'll be able to find that application. It's the PPP loan forgiveness application. And I think it's about 3 or 4 pages. But make sure that you get that application because that could be a part of what you're required to have as part of loan forgiveness. Okay? Great. So now, if this is your first time here tonight, let me give you a brief read-in as to what we're doing here. This is our Super Tuesday business meeting. We have this business meeting every other Tuesday night, and its purpose is to continue to provide the training for freight brokers and agents that are necessary to become successful brokers and agents. Because there's a difference between starting out and being successful. So we know that being successful does not come with just one and done training. You know, it's a continued training to get better at the service that you provide, get more responsibility from your customer, and of course, earn more money because of that. So that's what this is all about. That's why we do Super Tuesday business meetings. Now, usually these meetings are closed. We don't usually open them all the time to our extended network, but sometimes we do. So if you're here tonight and we're doing it here live on YouTube, then of course, you know, those are some of the things that we're going to do sometimes. We'll invite some people in sometimes as a part of our extended network. So welcome, and thank you so much for spending some of your time with me. Quick alibi. I'm always appreciative of you selecting to spend some of your time with me. You know, so blocking a period of your time to spend time with us. Because that says to me is that you have just said, hey, you know what? I feel like, you know, it's something that Brandon is going to share with me tonight that's worth my time. So what I try to make sure that happens is that I'm well prepared when I come to this webinar so that I can provide value to the time that you've chosen to spend with me. You know, that's how I say I appreciate and thank you for your time. I want to make sure that I provide value to the time that you spend because this is time that you never get back. We can't get time back, you know, so I want to make sure that I give you something of value when you come here and spend some time with me. So thank you for spending the time. And now let me bring some value to your hour. Okay, so with that said, next thing I want to talk to you about is now that we're talking about the PPP loan, stimulation is not production, okay? Stimulation is not production. What do I mean by that? I had a guy tell me that he got a PPP loan. It took him a couple of months to get it. He got $70,000. He got a particular loan, some surplus or loan that they were doing during the surplus when the $1 trillion or whatever the number was that they got approved by Congress. Well, he said that he got approved for $70,000. And he said how he looked at that is he made $35,000 a month because it took him 2 months to get approved for the grant or whatever he got, okay? So he looked at it and said, hey, I made $35,000 a month. And how I look at that, and I didn't, of course, challenge him, that's his prerogative. He can see it however he wants to see it. But how I see that is stimulation is not production. Stimulation is somebody giving you X amount of dollars. Production is you going out and, of course, exchanging value, providing some value to someone else's time where they see service or see the value in the service that you're providing, and then they exchange that, or they give you money in exchange. You know, that's what production is, producing based off of value, okay? So don't confuse stimulation with production. Two completely different things, okay? Next thing I want to tell you about is the recording. If you're new here and you want this recording, make sure that you sign up on our website at BrandonTheFreightBroker.com. When you go to BrandonTheFreightBroker.com and sign up for our 5-video series, then you'll be on our email list. And when I send this recording out tomorrow morning at 6 a.m., you will get this recording. So just make sure you signed up at www.BrandonTheFreightBroker.com if you're interested in getting a copy of this recording or get this recording sent to you. And that's provided, of course, I'm doing it correctly, and I'm pretty sure that I am. So hopefully we'll have a recording for you tomorrow at 6 a.m. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to get into our class tonight, which is 9 basic needs of a shipper. 9 basic needs of a shipper. Now, you may not look at freight brokering in the way that it should be looked at. You may be looking at it in your own way, and that's okay. But let's look at it. Let's examine it really quickly and see if we're looking correctly, if we're looking at it like we should be looking at it. Okay. Now, when I first started out, my perspective of freight brokering was I was going to go out and set up my business, get everything set up, get all of the things that I needed in place as far as systems and things were concerned, put those systems in place, and now I was going to go and present my service to the shipper, and it was going to be relatively, relatively easy. I didn't expect that it would be a real struggle to acquire a customer base. I was just thinking, hey, I'm a new freight broker. I have trucks. I have access to trucks, and it's going to go pretty easily. They're just basically going to say, okay, I got loads. You got trucks. I got loads. Well, it didn't work out that way. And I found that out relatively quickly, that it wouldn't be that way. So I want to help you to understand tonight is that if you are under the impression that freight brokering is about getting your business set up, getting all your systems in place, and then start to go out and offer your service to shippers, and they're just going to work with you based on the fact that they just need you so bad, then you're probably going to be in for a surprise, the same surprise that I was in for. So let's try and see if we can get a better understanding, a better perspective of freight brokering. Here is more like it is. When you get out and you start going to your customers, you're going to face some adversity. Because what you have to understand about a freight broker, and what many people don't understand, is that a freight broker is absolutely a full-time professional salesperson. And you don't necessarily start out knowing everything about sales. But I think that's what we confuse most with the freight broker business, is people leave out the part about being a salesperson. And that's what you are. That's what you all are as a freight broker, all day, every day, twice on Sunday, is being a salesperson. Now, some of you are going to embrace that, and some of you are not going to embrace that. And for those of you that don't embrace the salesperson aspect of this business, it's going to be very difficult to do well in this space. It's going to be very difficult. So I would highly, highly suggest understanding that from the word go, that a freight broker is a salesperson. And the better you become at selling a service to your shippers, the more success you're going to have. Okay? Now, I had a light bulb moment when I was in 2016. I started my business up in 2015, and I had a light bulb moment in the early part of 2016. I had gone out and had some success, basically calling up shippers and offering my service just based off of what I wanted. I was trying to get a shipper. And we did, of course, get a couple of shippers that way. And we got some very good shippers doing it that way. But that's only going to take you so far. And when the light bulb moment came for me was at a Capital Ideas conference in 2016, I started to realize that this business was all about identifying your service. And not only identifying that service, being able to articulate that service in a way that your shippers can understand and appreciate the value that you're presenting in that service. Now, that doesn't come overnight, but we want to start out with designing our service. We want to start out with doing that. So when I mean the light bulb moment, what I mean by that is we have a thing in air traffic control. I was an air traffic controller in the military, and we have a thing in air traffic controller that at some point the light pops on. You're in darkness, you're in confusion around what you're doing, but usually at some point, and everybody point come at a different time, the light pops on, and you're like, I got it now. Okay, that's what that was for me. At that Capital Ideas conference back in 2016, I started to realize this is all about identifying, defining what your service is, and being able to articulate it, communicate that in a way that my shippers can understand and appreciate. because that's what that conference was all about. And it wasn't anybody coming and saying, okay, Brandon, this is what you need to do. It was basically saying, you offer a service. What you need to find out is what your shipper's needs are so that you can design a service that fits their needs. You have a service that fits their needs. But if you don't know that, you're just shooting in the dark, you're going to get very limited success doing it that way. So we want to know, what is our service? What do we offer? Okay, what do we offer to our shippers to make them say, wow, you know, that's something that I definitely want to look further into. So I'm going to give you tonight 9 basic needs of a shipper so you can take a look at the needs and then start to figure out what you need to offer as a service. Okay? Does that make sense? If that makes sense, please say yes, yes in the comments. If you would just say yes, yes on that, I can feel like we're on the same sheet of music and we can move on here. That was a light bulb moment. What is your service? How does it work? Thank you so much. All right, all right. So now we just dealt with what is your service. Now what we want to talk about is how that relates. What is your service relates directly to your customer's needs. Your customer's needs and their desires. And that's all about yes, 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 yes. Okay, great, great. Thank you so much. That's all about relating, understanding, and facilitating. Understanding and relating to the needs and desires of your customer so that you can facilitate those needs. So you can make it easier for your shipper to do what it is that they do on a day in and day out basis. They move freight. They want to make sure that their freight is moving, that we're having seamless movements, it's fluid, and you can facilitate that by understanding, relating to your shipper. But first, customers' needs and desires. What does your customer need? Do you understand what they need, and can you facilitate? Can you do those three things? Relate to your customer, understand what their needs are, then put a service in place that meets those needs by facilitating. And basically what we're saying is facilitating when we're saying that. That's simple. Understanding the customer's needs and their desires. Okay? Now, the first thing that we want to talk about here, when we're talking about 9 needs, I don't want you to get so locked into the needs that I am going to identify with you tonight. I want you to be taking notes. I want you to be taking notes, and if so, and you feel like you want to share some of the things that you're writing, share them in the comments with the rest of our viewers so that they can see some of the things that you're saying. But we're getting ready to identify 9 shipper needs right now. And if you want to pop in and share some of yours, there's no problem with that. Pop them in and share them as we're going through them, okay? Because you may see something that others don't see. You may see something that I don't see. And that's a different part of your service that you can provide. But this is going to give you something to build a service around tonight. Okay, first thing that we're going to talk about, what a shipper needs is a freight broker, someone who can help them solve difficult lanes, seasonality, and LTL movements. Okay, I'm going to say that again. Difficult lanes / seasonality / LTL. Okay, that's what we're saying. When we're saying difficult lanes, we're talking about some seasonality issues and some LTL issues. Okay, now, anytime we're talking difficult lanes, what we're saying is that you're going to have some lanes that it is very difficult to move loads within. You're going to have some lanes that it's difficult to do that. Anybody on here, if you're a truck driver, you know that if you got loads coming out of Florida or going into Florida, then truckers don't necessarily like going into Florida because it's hard to find loads coming out that's going to be paying worth anything. Okay? So those are difficult lanes. I have a lane that's in Wisconsin, Green Bay, Wisconsin, Appleton, Wisconsin. These are the big cheese places. And we have lanes out there, and in the summertime, it's easy to move those lanes. Okay? But in the wintertime, it is difficult to move those lanes. And what I want you to help me out to understand right now is, why do you think it becomes difficult to move lanes in the summer and the winter. Of course, because of seasonality, because of the seasons. When it's, 6 degrees outside and snow is on the ground, trucks don't want to go into Wisconsin. So of course, truck capacity decreases and prices increase. But that still makes it difficult to move those lanes. But those are the type of lanes that you as a freight broker are seeking. You're seeking those opportunities out because they give you the best opportunity to shine. They give you the best opportunity to look like, the Superman to your shipper. Okay? So that's important. Difficult lanes. That is what your shipper needs. Someone who can solve those issues when it comes to difficult lanes they have. Seasonal issues. Now, let's talk about LTL service. Now, a lot of us shy away from LTL service because LTL service is a little bit more difficult. Okay? When we don't have an established network in the LTL space, it is going to be more difficult to move LTL loads. Why? Because you don't have truck drivers that specialize in LTL. But can you move those loads still? Certainly. Are there FTL drivers that will move LTL loads? Certainly. Especially if they're paying pretty good. Okay? Because you have some LTL lanes that are going to pay very decent rates. So you would need to take when you start taking a look at that, you look at your carrier network and you start to offer that load to even some of your truckload drivers. Because moving LTL freight is a big thing that your customers need. Why? Because they don't always need to move a full truckload. There's not always going to be a full truckload. A lot of us like the full truckload because they're, hey, pick up, drop off, everything is good. But you don't get paid for solving the easy issues. You get paid for solving the bigger issues. Difficult lanes, seasonal issues with freight, LTL issues. You can come in and work hard and start to solve some of those issues, and you can look pretty good for your shippers when you do that. Okay? And we're also going to talk about some multi-lane shipments as well, because those are not necessarily easy. Multi-lane shipments. We kind of back off from those sometimes if you got to make 6 or 7 stops. But again, those are the issues. Those are the loads that make you look good when your shippers are saying, "Hey, man, this guy's really valuable." They look at you and say, "Man, he's able to get this done. He's able to get these loads moved, and we've had other people that couldn't get them moved. If you can do that, that's a wonderful thing." Okay. Now, visibility. What else do shippers need? Why do shippers need visibility? Why do we say visibility is necessary for shippers? Okay. Well, as a shipper, when I give my freight to a freight broker or a carrier, whoever it may be, I want sometimes to be able to check on the progress of my load, especially in the days of freight theft, because freight theft is still real. So shippers are going to want, sometimes they're going to want updates. They're going to want viz, as we call it, or visibility on their load movements. So if you can offer a service that provides visibility, that is something that is looked upon as saying, "Hey, that's a valuable piece of the service that we enjoy. We like that part of the service." Visibility on our freight. How do you achieve visibility on freight? You can simply go through your load board and get it. TMSs offer it. There's specific software on it. There's a app on your phone now that you can get that the trucker downloads that app, and you can basically have viz on that freight through that app. Now you want to let make sure that you get your trucker to agree to it. You have to talk to him about doing it, let him know what's going on, and most times that they will agree. Okay, but that gives you an option of being able to offer visibility to your shippers. And communication. Communicating with your shippers, letting them know what's happening with the that freight movement if they require information on it. Make sure that you're responding and letting them know what's going on with that freight. Visibility is a key factor, big part of your service. So take a look at that part of it. So we've talked about difficult lanes, seasonality, LTL loads. Now we're talking about visibility. And now we're going to get ready to go into another part of your service, another part that you can offer that shippers need is cost control. Cost control within lanes, okay? Now, when we say cost control, we're not going in and saying, as a freight broker, I'm just going in and trying to decrease cost, cut cost as much as possible. No. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is getting price consistency throughout those lanes, okay? When you have lanes that you're working on with your customers, one of the things that you're gonna get from time to time, probably, at least we do, is, hey, Brandon, one of the biggest things I need is price consistency in this lane. You know, would you be willing to take a look at giving us a contract, going with a contract in this lane instead of, you know, getting new rates every other month? Can we get something for a 12-month period? And that's how we, look at it and say, hey, we can help control the cost, help to make the cost more consistent, okay? But as a freight broker, you need to be able to look at that lane, go in and look at that lane and determine what it's gonna cost you to run that lane throughout a 12-month period, okay? So you don't wanna undercut that, cut yourself short, because there are gonna come times where that lane may increase and it may cost you more to move it. So you don't wanna undercut yourself in cost and then be left out there during those times, okay? So contracts are a great thing, don't get me wrong, but we need to be prepared. We need to know when we're going in and giving prices in those lanes that they are solid prices that are gonna carry you through that 12-month period, okay? Now, cost control is something that is also going to allow for not only your shipper to win, but for you to win and your carrier to win. See, because what we must understand is that this business is not about one side winning. If you are a one-sided broker and you are making it so that the shipper wins and you're cutting your own profit and you're cutting your carrier's profit, then you won't be in business for long. So we want to make sure that when we are taking a look at cost, we're considering not just ourselves, not just the shipper, but the carrier also. 3 people are involved here. And the carrier, of course, gets the lion's share of the load. That's how it works. the carrier has the asset, the carrier has the time, he's putting the time in, he's moving the load. So the carrier gets the lion's share of the load, okay? But at the same time, when we negotiate properly, when we are able to put, the control costs within lanes, then we're gonna make a decent profit as well, okay? That's sometimes gonna be 15% or more, sometimes it's gonna be 15% or less. Just depends on how well you're negotiating those lanes, okay? But what you want to do is be consistent in what your profit margins are, because that's how you stay in business over time. Consistent profit margins, not necessarily trying to get a one and done. But now, there are times where we make more money than others, and that's definitely on last minute loads. So we offer that as part of our service too, last minute loads, okay? But number 3 is cost control. Now we're getting ready to go into number 4. Now, from number 4, some shippers are going to have special needs. They're going to have different things that they have going on, and what you have to find out is what those needs are, and can you facilitate the needs? See, this is not just about sitting back and waiting for something to happen. No, we have to be forward. We got to move and, realize that there are issues out there. There are things that are happening out there every day. How can I find out what's going on with my shipper? I got to ask questions. I got to talk to them. I got to get them on the phone. So this is not about just, hey, this is Brandon with Alliance Logistics was giving you a call to see if we can help you move some freight. No, this is about digging into what's going on within our shippers' business on a day in and day out basis. And we got to talk. We got to have conversations to understand that, okay? Don't be afraid to have conversations. Special needs, though, okay? Some of your shippers are going to have special needs. Let me give you an example. In my business, we were working with a shipper and they needed drayage freight moved. And I was telling you guys not long ago that I didn't know anything about drayage freight at that time. So found out just through having a conversation with the shipper that that was something that they were working on. It was really hot. And I asked him if he would like me to take a look at it. You know, it's not something that I'm familiar with, but would you like me to take a look at it and see if we can get a driver for it? Because what it was, we were going to get a driver to move drayage freight. Drayage freight is moved in short spaces. This was an 8-mile run back and forth between warehouses for, for a year period of time. That's what that contract was for. And we took a look at it, start, drilling down on, hey, who could, work a lane like this? Who would this work with? Just start going out, calling people, going to our network, and finally, we got somebody to move that lane. Now, that was a very difficult project because truckers had to commit to putting their trailers there, and they had to commit to 2 trucks. Now, when you're talking 3 or 4 trailers and 2 trucks, the money has to be right, or your trucker is not gonna agree to that. So they had special needs. So because we were able to look and find out that they did have something that was going on that required our assistance, we were able to find that out by having conversations with the shipper. And when we discovered that they had that need, we came to it with a solution. Here is what we can do. Not over-promising and under-delivering. Just saying, hey, let me take a look at it. We'll take a look at it and see, and bring you something back, see what we can offer. Not trying to act like you're a Superman and you got all the answers, but you want to take a look at it so you can figure out, see if you have some solutions that fit whatever that problem is, okay? All right, so now, billing issues. Billing. Sometimes your shippers are gonna have issues with how billing is set up. With this same situation, the carrier, or excuse me, not the shipper, but the carrier will have issues with how he's getting paid, okay? For example, with this, the shipper wanted to pay every 30 days, but this was a small carrier. He couldn't afford to wait 30 days, every 30 days to get paid. He had to get paid every 2 weeks. Now, this shipper only pays on 30 days. So you as the freight broker, not only are you looking to facilitate to the needs of your shipper, but to your carrier as well. Because this, in order for this to work, this particular carrier needed to make sure that he got paid every 2 weeks. So you as the liaison, as the middle person, you're going to go to your shipper and make sure that they understand the importance of breaking this payment down into every 2 weeks. We have somebody to cover this load. They have the assets that are required. They are at our price point. Here is what we need. We need to get paid every 2 weeks for this particular carrier, okay? On this type of load, because he's moving every day, so he has to pay for fuel. He has to pay for his refrigerator unit running all day, so he cannot afford to wait 30 days. So that's where you come in at. Now, that is special needs on the carrier side, but that's still a part of it because it all moves together. The carrier and the shipper and you make a load move from point A to point B. Not one of those parties, but all of them. So that's a part of it. You want to be able to go to your carriers or go to bat for your carriers and be able to discuss that so that you can get sometimes when that requires for you to do that so you can get loads moved. Now, I'm not saying that for a regular one load move, a pickup and a drop off. I'm talking about for something specific like this that requires daily movement, daily fuel that has to be, put in. We're talking about something entirely different, okay? Someone says, why not factor the bills? You can factor those bills. You certainly can factor the bills if that's the route that you want to go. Of course, you're going to pay a fee to factor, but I don't disagree with factoring at all. I used a factoring company for about a 3-year period of time, but then I went to a line of credit because it was going to be much cheaper. So definitely, you can factor your bills, but now factoring, that type of deal wasn't what we wanted to do. We took that outside of the factoring company. We wanted to deal with that one-on-one instead of having to go through a factoring company, because a factoring company is going to eat away at your profit, because every time a load moves, every time that invoice comes, he's getting a piece of that invoice. So we cut the factor out of that and went direct to the carrier. Okay, and as a matter of fact, it was the pay wasn't designed so we were paying. It was coming through us into the ship. Excuse me, coming through us into the carrier. Okay. Now, other special needs. Some of your shippers are going to have hazmat needs. They're going to need different type of permits for different types of freight that they're moving. You can offer that. You can basically say, okay, we need permits. I'll make sure that we get hazmat permits, whatever type of overloading permits that may be needed. And all you're going to do that is facilitate that through your carrier network. That's it. You'll just be going through your carrier network to make sure that they have the requirements to meet the needs of your load. Okay? It's about going through your ship. When you go through your carriers and you got a certain type of load moving, let's say it requires hazmat, you're going to let him know the details of that load and then let him know that it requires hazmat certification. And if he has hazmat certification, boom, you're good to go. Okay? But now when you start looking for that load, when you start looking to negotiate on that load, you can put specifically in your filter hazmat qualification, and hazmat drivers will come up for that particular load. Okay. Okay. Somebody says I'm gonna hold off on special needs. We're closing out special needs, getting ready to go to our fifth need. But someone asked a good question. What do you do if you quote too low and the shippers don't want to go up, but they know the rate is too low? Okay, that's a good question. Here's what I do. I'm not saying that this is law, but this is what I do. If I quote a shipper a rate, whatever that rate is, if I quote a shipper a rate and I come back and find out later that I misquoted that particular load and I should have been at a higher rate, then more than likely I am going to eat that cost, because I am not the person that gives my shipper one price and, come back later and say, oh, I made a mistake, because, yeah, we can make a mistake, but when we're pricing loads, whatever my price is, whatever price I give you, I honor that price. Okay, so that's just how I see it. That doesn't necessarily mean that's law. There are times, even when you're in contracts, for example, I've been in contracts in loads, moving a load at a particular number, and I've had to go to the shipper and let them know, hey, this lane has shifted all the way to the right. There's no way that I can do this at this particular number. This is where we have to be for the time period. And then I explain why. And more than likely, it's going to be for the reason that truck capacity has been affected in that particular lane. Okay. So how I see it is, contracts, that's a different thing sometimes, but for 99% of your quotes, sometimes you're going to get it wrong. That's just how it works, especially when you first get out there. You don't have a whole lot of lane history. You're going to get loads wrong. Don't be afraid of that. That's just how it goes. That's the whole process of learning what's going to work for your shipper, what's going to work for you, and what's going to work for your carrier. Okay? So we're moving now from special needs, and we're going to go into our fifth need of our customer. Okay, I hope everybody's getting something from this. Tell me in the comments, are you feeling what it is that I'm saying? Are these needs kind of aligning with some of the things that you were already thinking when it comes down to what you can provide for your shipper? Do you see being able to design a service around these needs? If you do, just put why in the chat. Just put why. Somebody says, great information. I'm glad you find it very, very helpful. Thank you so much. Okay? And also remember, I want to remind you that I'm also going to send you a recording, and hopefully these recordings are going to capture the slides that we are showing here. Hopefully it'll capture. Okay, yes, everybody seems to be getting it. Joseph, Finesse, Kevin, Gramps, Gail, Sherry. Okay, cool. All right. Now, we're going to go on to number 5. Now, One of the things that you are going to most save your shipper when you're doing this correctly is time. You see, shippers have core responsibilities that they have to work on every day in their business. They have some core issues that they have to be attentive to, which is why they use freight brokers to handle freight movement. Because freight comes with a lot of different issues sometimes. Sometimes you're gonna have, I tell people all the time, probably 60 or 70% of your loads are gonna pick up and drop off without any issues. But you're gonna have 30 to 40% of those loads that have some issues that you have to work around. And your shippers don't wanna get into the weeds and have to work on all of those issues themselves, which is why they use freight brokers. Freight brokers that offer a service that have solutions to the issues that businesses or shippers see daily, okay? So shippers lack time to deal with freight issues, so they would rather a hassle-free service to deal with those issues for them, okay? So now it's about communicating that. You have a service that is going to help that shipper focus on what their core responsibilities are, the core issues of their business, while you take care of the freight movement. I am going to handle the issues that come with your freight movement, and you can depend on me to do that. Now, saying that is one thing, and doing that is completely different. We talk about this often. In this space, it is important to keep your word. We talked about that at the forefront. We're talking about that here again. Keeping your word. Do what you say you're going to do. If you do that, you're going to be in a good place. If you don't, if you're one of those people that try to act like you got all of the answers and you're going to solve the problem and, hey, I'm just going to run head first into it, that's okay. I like your courage. I like your can-do-itness, if you will. I like that. But at the same time, what we have to understand is we don't want to put ourselves out there and not be able to deliver on our word. Okay? Now, I'm not saying that you should hold back because of you're fearing, you got some fear of not being able to deliver. What I'm saying is, yes, put yourself out there, but go after it until you deliver on your word. And then, if for some reason you can't, then explain what happened so that your shipper can understand. But it's better to get some wins in there before you have some misses. Because if you have established a pattern of winning, if you have a miss, then they understand. A shipper told me one time, he said, hey, Brandon, what I like about your service is that when you tell me that you're going to do something, you do it. Bottom line. Bottom line. Now, did I have a couple misses in there every now and again? Yeah, but he didn't talk about that. What he talked about is what he knows that I've been consistent in doing over a long period of time. That's what you want to do. You want to do something and do it consistently over a period of time. Okay? Now, I want to take a real quick question before we go on to number 6. Melanie says she's always having issues with appointment time. Shippers never ready, or the recipient's not ready for freight. Okay. All of my freight movement, because I move refrigerated freight, all of them require appointments. And appointments can be a hassle. Appointments can be a hassle, but that's a part of my service. I'm going to make sure that the appointments are set up. As a matter of fact, if a shipper gives me loads and the appointments are already set, I might go in and change those appointments because I need them to marry up to the times for the carrier that I am using. Okay? So appointments can be a headache. And you are absolutely correct. Sometimes you're going to have situations where you're calling trying to get an appointment and you cannot get an appointment. But some of those issues too, you're going to need to bring in your shipper. Hey, I've been calling over here to, wherever our drop-off point to that particular location. I cannot get in touch with anybody. Do you have another number that I might be able to call? What's the deal? Because your shipper has all of that customer's information because that's the shipper's customer. So they have that information. They give you the information to set the appointments with. So you may want to knock on the door of that shipper to get some assistance with being able to make sure that those appointments are set up so that they facilitate a seamless movement. Okay? All right. Lewis Nash is present. Thank you so much for being here today, brother. It's always good to see you. Now, we're moving on from number 5, which is time. Now we're going to move on to number 6. Number 6 is what I call accessorial assistance. Accessorial assistance should definitely be a part of your service as a freight broker, in my opinion. Why? Okay, remember earlier we talked about shippers don't want to get in the weeds and have to do things like pay lumper fees. Okay, shippers don't want to have to go out and pay a lumper fee when they can have somebody that offers that service that can pay that so that they don't have to deal with all of those onesies and twosies. They're going to pay for the fee, but they want you to invoice them 30 days later. So when you offer accessorial assistance, meaning that when that load comes for you to deliver it, sometimes they have lumper fees attached to it. Okay, that means there's a lumper service there and they're charging you to download the truck. Okay, now remember, that's the shipper's freight, right? That's not the carrier's freight. The carrier is using his asset to move the freight, so he shouldn't have to pay for the lumper fee. Although some carriers are set up and they'll go ahead and pay for it, but many of them are not set up to pay lumper fees. And most times lumper fees are not due in cash, they're due in electronic payment. So if you are set up electronically with a service called EFS, which is electronic funding source, or something like Comdata, then you can offer electronic payment. Okay, so electronic payment gives you the ability to say, okay, the shipper, when that carrier got there to drop off the load, the receiving agency said, okay, we charge a $150 lumper fee. Okay, so your carrier is going to call you back and say, hey, Brandon, they're charging me a lumper fee over here. Were you aware of that? No, I didn't know they were charging a lumper fee over there. This is our first time dropping off there, so I didn't know. He said, yeah, they charging a lumper fee. So what I'm going to do then is go into my EFS account, which is most likely going to be attached to you through your factoring company, if you have a factoring company. If you don't, you can have it set up independently. But if you do have a factoring company, it will be set up underneath your factoring company. But when you go and you set up that electronic funding source account, now you can go in and basically say, okay, this is a $150 electronic check. I'm sending this to whatever receiving agency it is that you're dropping off at, and it's going to, when you press submit, it's going to give you a money code. You're going to put in $150 and then it's going to give you a money code. That money code is an EFS number, and that number, when you give it to the carrier and he gives it to them, it's going to show that here's $150 electronically that you can, access. So you want to offer that as part of your service, because if you don't have that now, if the carrier can't pay for it, who's going to pay for it? Then you got to go back and let the shipper know, hey, we got a lumper fee that needs to be paid. And you don't want to do that. You want to be able to do that. Now, you don't pay for any lumper fee or any fee that comes with a load until you get approval from your shipper. I'm not saying that you're just going to go randomly start paying for things. You are going to get approval. How do you get approval? You're simply going to say, shoot your email over to your shipper and say, hey, this load, PO number such and such, requires a lumper fee, or is requiring a lumper fee of $150. Please approve. Then they'll say, PO number such and such has been approved. Please include this with your invoice. And then you take that, include that with your invoice, and you get paid for paying for that invoice, because now you have an approval from your shipper. Okay? So everything is about doing it in order, but accessorial assistance so that you can pay lumper fees. And now the other side of that is you also want to be able to offer fuel advances. Okay? Because, for example, a lot of times you're going to have carriers, they can take care of their own fuel, but sometimes carriers, especially smaller carriers, are going to need a fuel advance. Let's say you're in a tight lane and you don't have a whole lot of carriers that you can go to. and you have a carrier that's on the line saying, hey, I have no problem. I want to move this load for you, but I need a what? What is he going to say I need? He says, I need something from you, and I can move that load. A fuel advance, okay? A fuel advance. Some carriers are going to need fuel advances. And all I'm saying here is what you're trying to do is set yourself up so that you can have the best way of getting that load moved the easiest, okay? So when you can give a carrier fuel advance, if he needs it, you want to do that. Now, of course, you're gonna charge a fee for that fuel advance. You just don't give a fuel advance away and don't charge anything, unless you just want to be nice, I guess. But most of us are going to charge fuel advance fees, just like you would charge a factoring fee. You would charge a fuel advance fee. Okay. So accessorial assistance is going to set you up on the lumper side so that you can pay for those. And then if you are providing a fuel advance, it helps your loads to be able to move sometimes when you have carriers that may not be able to afford to fuel that it may cost to go 1,000 miles. Okay. You can go ahead and give him a fuel advance, and then he can be on his merry way. Of course, there's a way to go about giving a fuel advance. You don't just give a fuel advance, to a carrier before he picks up a load. You always want to go in, this is the way I do it. Now, you can do it how you want, but how I do fuel advances is when a carrier calls me for a fuel advance, I'll say, okay, no problem, we can approve a fuel advance, but here's what I need you to do. I need you to go to the facility that we're picking up and pick up the load. Once you pick up the load, send me a copy of the BOL where you picked up the load, and then we'll send you a fuel advance. They take a picture of it, send it to me, and then we send them the fuel advance. That way, everybody's taken care of. Now he has a fuel advance. He can go ahead and move your load. Okay? So that's number 6, accessorial assistance. Being able to offer lumper fees, fuel advances. You're going to do that through your EFS or ComData. Okay? Now, number 7 is volume. Now, some of your shippers are going to have huge volumes of freight that are moving. And I have gotten shipments where I have gotten 10, 11, 12 pages of shipments and wanting quotes within those lanes. And it's easy to say, hey, I'm just going to start, giving quotes in all of the lanes. It's easy to want to do that. You let's get excited. You're like, man, I can cover all of these. But don't, again, overpromise and underdeliver. Okay? And you want, more than likely, it would be better for you to pick a specific segment of those lanes and say, I'm going to provide rates on these particular lanes. Because 9 times out of 10, the shipper is not sending you that entire sheet for you to make quotes on all of those lanes. He's looking for what you can cover. So cover what you can cover, but don't be afraid to assist with large movements. Okay? Don't be afraid to assist with large movements. For example, you may start off in an area and you're moving loads. You're moving onesies and twosies in particular lanes. And then you see an opportunity where you can get a bigger segment of that business, because most of us, when we first start moving loads, you're only moving 2, 3, 4, 5% at most of that shipper's freight. So there's more to get, but we have to, of course, position ourselves to get it. But don't be afraid, to offer your assistance on large volume movements. Move the freight that you can move. And when you cannot move, if you, you don't have enough carriers in that particular lane, whatever it may be, just be upfront and honest. What I've found in this business is that being honest is the best at all times. That's the best option for you at all times, to be honest. Just be straight up. Okay? I'm having a connection issue here, it says. Signal is freezing. Okay, I'm freezing up, so hopefully my signal here will come back here shortly. Did you get me back? I think you got me back. I'm going to try and finish this up. 7, we're talking about volume, not being afraid to offer assistance with large volume movements. That's important. But again, we don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. We want to do what we are capable of doing. Okay? That's number 7. Let's go to number 8. On-time performance. I'm going to say that again. OTP, on-time performance. This is important. You know, sometimes people say, you know, oh, okay, our appointment is set to pick up the load at 8 a.m. If we'll get there a little late, it's okay. No, it's not okay. It is not okay to be late for pickups, because when you are late for pickups, then it could throw off all the rest of the appointments and then get you put in the back of the line sometimes as a carrier. So we don't want to be late for pickups. As a matter of fact, we want to have a very high percentage of on-time pickup rates, on-time delivery rates. We want to have a high percentage in those areas. Why is that? Why is that? Well, very simple. Because what it shows is that we are allowing for freight to move fluidly. We're on time for our appointments, we're there on time to pick it up, and we're there on time to deliver it, okay? We don't want to miss appointments. Now, at the same time, we don't want to endanger our drivers. If they happen to be late because of an issue, then you're just going to be late. But if you're going to be late, you want to call ahead of time and talk to your receiving facility and let them know that you're going to be late, and you know about how far you're out, what time you expect to arrive, all of that good stuff, because you're on their time, okay? Now, sometimes they're not going to be able to load you on time. It happens. So that happens in this business, is understood, but we want to be able to get ahead of it and explain it if we're not on time. But for the most part, we want to make sure that when we're talking to carriers, hey, this is the pickup time. Is there any reason why you wouldn't be able to make this time? You know, you just wanted him to shoot straight up with you. Hey, because he might have a later delivery appointment than he initially said. You know, he might say, hey, I'm getting off this load at 9 o'clock. There wouldn't be any problem for me to be there at 11 o'clock. But he may not actually get off that load until 10 o'clock. You know, so we want to make sure that we're talking to the carrier to understand what the real deal is. That way we can make sure that we are keeping our on-time performance at a very high rate. We want to be upwards of 98% when it comes down to your on-time pickup and on-time delivery, okay? And that's key, that's important, because it contributes to the fluidness of your freight movement, okay? All right, so number 8 was on-time performance. You keep that as a culture, a way of doing business, making sure that your carriers understand that, and carriers are generally on time. They're going to be there at the time that you say that the load picks up. But you want that to be a part of your culture. You want that to be a part of that culture, so you need to talk about that so that carriers understand the importance of being on time. You're on the same sheet of music. Because really now, when it really boils down to it, you don't have a service if you don't have carriers that are helping you to create that service, to create an A1 service. You got to have A1 carriers, okay? That's just the bottom line. You as a freight broker don't have an A1 service without A1 carriers, okay? So you got to be preaching that culture all the time, okay? All right, number 9, our final one for the evening. Responsible, responsive, and reliable freight brokers. Responsible, responsive, and reliable. Let's first deal with responsible. Being responsible for your shipper's freight, being responsible in doing things in a timely manner, doing things in a business and professional-like manner at all times. Being responsible. And that's going to build confidence in your shipper. Now, next thing that we're going to talk about is responsiveness. People don't understand how important it is to respond to your shippers as soon as you possibly can when they send emails. That goes a long way, because what that says is to this shipper is, hey man, I can depend on this guy or this girl. I can depend on them. You know, they are going to, as soon as they're gonna shoot back to me and let me know what's going on. Where if they send an email to another freight broker, they might have to wait 2, 3 hours before the freight broker gets back with them. See, that's a part, should be a part of your service too, as a small freight brokerage, is somebody that can reach out, and they got somebody they can reach out and touch. It's not like, this is C.H. Robinson and you got hundreds of agents and you don't know who has your load. This is somebody that you can call on the phone, you can shoot an email and get a timely response, very quick response, okay? So you want to build that from the beginning. Hey, I'm somebody who when you send me an email, I'm gonna respond in the most timely manner when it comes to my freight movement. That's important. Okay, and lastly, reliable, responsible, responsive, and reliable. I can depend on you. When a shipper gives you his freight, he is entrusting you, for example, one of my movements, a full truckload movement of refrigerated freight costs $38,000, okay? So they're giving you $38,000 of their freight and saying, hey, I trust you. I'm trusting you with this freight. So you want to be somebody that they can rely on over and over and over again, because they'll see value in that. They'll see value in that. And when someone sees value in what it is that you're providing, they are going to give you more responsibility. That has been my experience, okay? You're gonna get more responsibility. Let's talk about multi-lane shipments really quickly. Multi-lane shipments is, for example, I drop off, or let's say I got one pick and 6 drops. That means that I'm gonna pick up at one particular location, and then I'm gonna have 6 drops in between. I'm gonna have 6 drops before I get off of the last drop to completely unload the entire truck. I'm gonna drop it in 6 different locations, okay? Now, those loads are not as easy to do as a load that's a full truckload that's picking up and dropping off with one pick, one drop. One pick, one drop is pretty easy. But this is it's gonna offer a little bit more challenge to do multi-lane loads. Again, those are the type of lanes that you wanna ask for. You wanna ask your shipper. And what it's also is gonna show is that you have, you kind of know what you're talking about. You wanna ask them, hey, we just wanted to know if you had any multi-lane shipments that you might need assistance with. We would be glad to take a look at them. We kind of, look for those opportunities to take a look at some multi-lane shipments. We would like to look at some of yours if you would think it would be beneficial. What do you think about it? Always ask for the hard stuff. Always ask for your multi-lane shipments. I've seen multi-lane shipments. I've seen my shippers get really excited when those loads go off, especially when they go off without hitches, because it's not easy, to hit those and be on time at every one of them, and they get off of the load on time and on to the next. Sometimes there can be some hiccups. So when you can manage those and you can manage those well, that looks very favorably for you to your shipper. Okay. All right. That is what I wanted to share with you this evening. Those are the 9 methods or the 9 needs of a shipper. And what I want you to do is take those needs and start to design your service around the need. That way you're just not saying something. You're not just, say, hey, I'm calling somebody just asking them, can I provide trucks? No. You're designing your service around the needs of shippers, the needs that shippers have every day. And when you're, designing a service that offers solutions to their problems, then you're going to be much more likely to earn their business. Okay? So that's what I wanted to share with you this evening. I certainly hope this has been helpful. Let me take a look at some of your questions. I want to get some of your questions answered here. Once you post your load to a load board, how do you receive your profit? How does the driver get his profit? Okay, when you post a load to a load board, sometimes you're going to post that load with pricing. Sometimes you're going to post it without pricing. But regardless of whether you post it with pricing or without pricing, you know what you have in the load already. So if you have $1,000 in the load, when you post that load, you may be selling that load for $700, okay? And it may be a load, let's say it's a load that's 250 miles. You might be selling it for $700. I don't know what you may have in it, but let's say you sell it for 700 and you got $1,000 in it. Well, the difference is your profit. You're going to make $300 profit on that load. Your truck driver is going to make $700. Now, he has to determine what his profit margins are and if it works for him. You know, you don't know whether it works for him or not. He'll let you know whether it works. Okay? All right. Hopefully that answered your question. Thank you so much for the question. Dan says, is it okay to become a broker as a carrier and move the shipping myself? Sure. You know, many shippers, many carriers are setting up that way so that they can offer a brokerage service and broker the loads and move their own loads. You know, now I've been hearing some things about some conflict of interest issues. I would say talk to the FMCSA on that. Sometimes hear those issues come up. I'm not a asset-owned freight broker. I'm a non-asset freight broker, so I don't know, exactly how that goes. But I would definitely say check on the FMCSA, talk with them to find out, exactly how that goes. But if you have a property broker authority, you can broker freight. That's the requirement. You have to have a property broker authority, and if you have that, you can broker freight. Joseph says, can you recommend a surety bond company? Joseph, send me an email. I'll give you my surety bond provider. I think you're in our course. You should have gotten it already, but if you just shoot me an email, man, and I'll shoot you over our provider's information, and I'll shoot you over their application so that you can get squared away. But her name is what's her name? She's at JW. I'll just shoot me an email and I'll give you her information. Okay? Okay. You shot me an email. Somebody said they shot me an email. I am going to be looking at all emails. I have had a lot going on with family and all of these different issues with what's going on in the world. So I am going to start looking at those emails today, and I'll definitely be in touch. Kim, thank you, Jay. Jay, you always on top of things, man. Her name is Kim. Her name is Kim over at JW Surety. Jay is in our course. He has a surety bond through JW. If you don't mind, Jay, what is you had a pretty good rate. You were just doing doing another surety bond. You were updating your surety bond the last time we talked. What was your rate over there with JW Surety Bond? Did you have a pretty good rate? Somebody said I sent in OP1 form and $300 and never heard anything back. You definitely want to call the FMCSA and make them aware of that payment because you should have received something in the mail, like your motor carrier authority, but your motor carrier authority would have been active until your surety bond goes. But I would definitely contact the FMCSA and let them know that payment has been made and the application has been completed and you need a status on your application. Okay, if you completed our course and you are waiting for your one-on-one, you have to send us an email. Just let us know that you've completed the course and you need to set up your one-on-one, and we'll get back in contact with you to set your one-on-one up. If for some reason you send an email and we missed it, please forgive me, but we definitely want to get with you to set that one-on-one up, because the whole idea of the one-on-one is to say, okay, now the training is complete. What we want to do now is go in and make sure that the business is structured properly, make sure that you have the systems that you need in place, your factory company, all of that good stuff is set up. And now what we want to do is start going after customers so we can acquire our first customer and move the first load. But there are some things that we got to make sure are in place before that. So we want to make sure that happens. There are some steps that we have to take to make sure that we're moving toward acquiring that first customer and moving the first load. So make sure you send that to us in an email. You can send it to info at alliancelogistics.net. Again, that's info@alliancelogistics.net. And you can also send it direct to me at brandon.scott@alliancelogistics.net. Again, that's brandon.scott@alliancelogistics.net. Okay? Around 1,500 for your JW surety bond, was Jay's. Lamont says his about 1,370. Okay? So those are really good rates. When we're talking about 1,500 and 1,370, we're talking about over a 12-month contract, a 12-month period. You're going to have that. That's not saying that you're paying that quarterly. That's a one-time payment of 1,200 to 1,500. But these persons probably have pretty good credit, which is why they have, those kind of rates. But what I see as a decent rate is $3,000 and below per year. Okay, $3,200 and below per year, you're good. That's a pretty good rate. Keisha says, how is detention determined, and does it have to be approved by the customer? That's a very good question. Now, we say as brokers we have a detention policy, but technically we don't necessarily have a detention policy, although we do. Our shippers have a detention policy, okay? So shippers pay X amount of dollars for detention, okay? And they have a detention policy. For example, my shipper's detention policy says that for every hour after the third hour, we pay detention pay. For every hour after the third hour, we pay detention pay, and we pay X amount of dollars. So when I go and design and tell them, okay, what we're paying in detention, we're telling them what we're paying in detention based off of the shipper's number. Okay? Now, when we pay whatever that number is that we pay in detention, we're basically going to pay that through the invoice. So you don't have to come out and pay that detention pay right away. You can just write that in as part of your rate confirmation, add that to your rate confirmation, and pay that as part of the rate. Okay? You'll have whatever the rate is plus the detention now and give you the new rate. Okay? So that's how detention works. Whatever your shipper's policy is, what they pay, you'll have a price that you go back to your carrier and say, this is what the detention is. And you'll add it to the rate confirmation and pay it that way. Okay? Now, also, I didn't say this, but you want a quick pay option to pay carriers. You want quick pay option in place because a lot of carriers are not going to want to wait 30 days to get paid. They're not going to want to wait 10 days to get paid. They're going to want quick pay. Quick pay means that when I drop this load, then as soon as I send you the paperwork, I can get paid that same day. Okay? Now, whatever your quick pay is, you need to find that out through your freight factoring company, or if you doing your own through a business line of credit, that's a little bit different. But if you have a factoring company, you need to find out what their quick pay policy is and how quick can they pay. Okay? Dasha said your credit score need to be around 700 to get those good rates. And I would agree. Larry says that his rate was about 1420. So all of those are very decent rates. The reason why we want rates that are low, 3,200 and below, because all of you are not going to get $1,400 rates. When I first started, I had great credit, but I still didn't get a $1,400 rate. I was paying $3,200 a year when I first started. Okay, part of that was I just didn't know how to negotiate, or if you could negotiate. And part of that was, you can get it stuck, they stick it to you sometimes when you don't know. It's just how that goes, okay? All right. No, Byron, there's no limited time on the one-on-one. When you get yourself squared away, get your business squared away, we'll do the one-on-one. There is no limited time that you can do that. Okay. Willie says, I have a new level of respect. Not that there was any disrespect. Thank you so much, brother. I certainly appreciate that. I thank you so much. I just try to be straight. You know, that's just the bottom line on that. I'm a man just like the rest of y'all brothers and men that are on this call, just striving to be a little bit better each day. And I'm sure many of you are doing the same. All right. Okay, so thank you so much for being with me tonight. We're gonna step up our game, get a little bit better at delivering these type of deals on YouTube. There is, is a little bit better experience I'm seeing when it comes to being able to interact with you. So we're gonna probably doing more of these. Someone says real quick, this is a good question. I want to answer this really quick. He says, how do you handle tunnel pay? Tunnel pay, what he's referring to there is something called TONU, which is truck ordered, not used. Truck ordered, not used. And what the gentleman is referring to there is that sometimes you are going to get a truck, and that truck, you're going to say, hey, I'm dispatching you to go pick up this load. This load is going to pick up at 9 a.m. and everything is good to go. Truck gets over there to pick up the load, and then when he gets ready to check in, the receiving facility tells him that the load is not ready, and it may not be ready, okay? So that truck has come from wherever he's come from to pick up the load, right? So now what we have to do is go in and pay him truck ordered, not used. We're gonna because that basically means we ordered the truck, and then when he got to the facility, there was no load for him to pick up. So he did his part. He did everything that he was supposed to do on his side. So now what we have to do is come in and say, okay, here is at least we can do is give you truck order, not used pay. So again, that's why it's important to take a look at what your shipper's policies are so that you understand them, what they are, and then you can pay whatever those truck order, not used rates are when those situations come up, because that's going to happen. There's no two ways about that. You are going to have situations where you order a truck, get a truck over there to pick up, and then the load is not ready. You are going to have situations where you order a truck and the truck is going to call you at the last minute and say, I can't pick up. So it's that type of business. It's things happen, and we have to make adjustments when things happen. Okay, I'm not going to hold you any longer. It is after 7. It's 7:15 now. Ladies and gentlemen, you have a great night. Again, thank you so much for spending some of your time with me this evening. I wish you the very best in your life and in your business. See you at the top, because the bottom is much too crowded. Thank you, everybody.